Hey everyone, Ben here. Welcome to another episode of the Stellarwork Podcast, episode 37. This time with Alisa Stolze. Alisa is one of the first Scrum Scale trainer in Europe and has just published her book about 20 habits for the first-time leaders and those who want to step up their game. This episode is about practical tips on how to lead teams, how to become a better leader, but also helpful patterns on how to do Scrum successfully. If you're aspiring to become a leader in your organization, this episode is for you. Hello and welcome, Alisa. Welcome to the Stellarwork Podcast.
Thank you so much, Benjamin. I'm so glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to our talk today.
Yeah, finally, we've been chatting back and forth and had some collaborations on the Spotify Wrapped last year and maybe this year. At least I hope so, because it was quite funny. And now you're here, finally.
I'm here finally in the podcast. I'm really happy.
Yeah, it only took you writing a whole book to get here.
It only took me writing a whole book. Yeah, that's so funny. I mean, writing a whole book, that sounds like a lot of work, and indeed it was a lot of work, but it only took us about 6 months, I would say.
6 months for how many pages? Like 300?
Exactly.
You ChatGPT'd the whole thing?
No, we
in
didn't.
one prompt?
No, we didn't ChatGPT at all. It was strictly forbidden by our publisher, and we were so diligent. We were typing everything on our own. I was even trying to just not type, but dictate everything so that I wouldn't have to type, because sometimes my fingers really felt numb already. It didn't work. I had to type. I was really typing. But at least we were two authors, my brother-in-law Jan and I, so that's fine. And I think we have 2 pages or so of book recommendations, so it was easy.
But one question, you published with Wiley. Would they recognize whether you used an AI to write the book or not? Would they be able to do that?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think they just want to be sure that it didn't come out of an AI.
Yeah.
They might be able to. I mean, I was doing an AI and Scrum training recently, and somebody said that his son was doing all of his homework and even his, no, nobody knows who it is, even his final exam for school, Abitur in Germany, with ChatGPT. And he prompted that ChatGPT should please not sound like an AI, and it worked. So the teachers weren't able to distinguish between his own voice and ChatGPT anymore. So that's brilliant. But we were like good people. We wanted to be good people. We didn't use AI at all.
All right. So everyone else, very welcome to this episode. We have the habit here of the guest introducing himself, or in this case, herself. So Alisa, why don't you give us a quick wrap up on who you are?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I'm Alisa Stolze, and I'm living in the northern part of Germany in East Frisia. And my business is coaching teams and organizations, especially in agile ways of working. So I'm working with the company of the Scrum inventor, Dr. Jeff Sutherland, Scrum Inc. And in Germany, I joined the network Scrum Events. And I'm helping out here and there. And I'm usually, giving a lot of trainings, doing a lot of trainings online and really on premise. And I'm also about 50% spending my time in actually helping, transforming, coaching, and teaching organizations so that whatever they want to do with Agile works for them. And like, because you have almost nothing to do when you're teaching Scrum and traveling Germany and maybe even going a little bit abroad, I also have a podcast, and that's why we know each other a little bit better. That's with Nadja Böhlmann, and that podcast is called Zusammen, mehr Elefant. That's translated. Together we see more of the elephant, and it comes from that picture of that wise man who asked some people to just have a blind in front of their eyes so that they cannot see. And he asked them to feel different parts of an elephant. And obviously, they said, "Oh, I feel a tree," or "I feel a snake," or something like that. But nobody saw the whole picture. And Nadja and I are working with Lean. That's Nadja. She's the total expert in Lean. It's so fascinating. It's amazing. And I come from the Agile side of things. And we're bringing that back together because in Agile, we have a lot of Lean. We come from Lean. It's like every Scrum Master out there, every Agilist should know a lot about Lean.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to just, see the whole picture together.
As someone coming from a production engineering background, I cannot agree more. Like, Lean is the foundation that you should get. And you also happened to write a book, which we already mentioned, but not the title, which is the practical way of leading teams 20 habits for effortless success. If we would translate it into English, it's a German book. Why did you decide on writing a book now? I mean, everyone is like dooming agile practices. It's all going downhill. You will not make any money as a consultant. No company should even try to get Scrum right. And you just like, let's write a whole book. Let's dedicate like 300 pages to it.
300 pages. But I have to say, it looked like 200 on our Word document, so we weren't that frightened.
No, I think it's like, let me scroll here. It's like 288, at least.
Yeah. It's really a lot. Yeah, but that's exactly why. You already stated why we wrote a whole book, because the title is Teamleitung konkret, and it's practical, the practical way of leading teams. And we witnessed over the past 10 years. I mean, it's become a little bit different. The whole industry has changed, but we see that what we teach, the little elements of what we teach, is so valuable. And of course, Agile has changed a little bit in the minds of society or organizations, because there has been a lot of fake Agile. A lot of people that claim to be Agile are not really Agile. They're using a lot of tools, but they didn't get the essence. But every time we came into a new organization or we had a new training, we always saw that those small pieces, the small habits actually, the rhythm of how we use the little habits, the ways that we make things transparent, they are so valuable. And a lot of my students loved to pick just one or two elements. For example, they said, well, why don't I just do a weekly plan with my team? Why don't I just pick a Scrum board or a Kanban board, just a board to make our work visible? Why don't I start with a new habit? And it was that combination for us which made it so attractive. So we took all of the Agile terminology out, but in the end, we picked those pieces and practices that we saw as most valuable and most needed in most teams that we worked with, and we put them into that book. And those became 20 practices. And on top, we're going into the whole thing of why are habits so powerful? And why do a lot of transformations fail? It's also a lot about being very, and not being able to take the time or not wanting to take the time, trying something once or twice, and then just leaving it all and going back to the old ways of working. And we all know when we try something new, it feels so weird, and our brain is uncomfortable because we have to spend more energy on trying that new thing. So we feel bad. But had we just stayed a little bit longer, had we just tried it for 3 weeks, we would have gotten used to something. Had we spent 3 months, it would be our new normal. So that's a combination. Those small habits, small practices that we saw are missing in the organizations, plus the habits and the rhythm.
How many people are in your trainings on a yearly basis? Just a rough estimate to get a glimpse.
Well, that's a very good question. I have no idea. I would say around hundreds, definitely hundreds. That's a very good question. question. I don't know.
And
I would have to count.
are they all in a leadership position, like leading a team or a department?
Yeah, many are. So it's quite mixed. I would say a third is in a leadership position, and especially in, or maybe even a little more, maybe even half of them. And I had a lot of women in my training recently, which made me very happy. When I started with my first Scrum trainings or assisting in my first Scrum trainings, I had all of those slightly elderly old men. Okay.
Ew, old men.
Oh,
Ew.
sorry. No, I was 30. I was 30.
Mm-hmm.
They saw that I was young. I had long hair. I was I don't know. I think everybody saw that I had an artist background because I was always more happy and more lively, and they were all wearing those glasses without that. So it
Without the
looks like
frame.
without the frame, exactly. And they had those shirts on with short sleeves or long sleeves, but all of them were white and blue, checkered or striped, and
Mm-hmm.
all of their names were like Thomas and I guess all of them Thomas, maybe Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And there was maybe one woman. And I was really disheartened at some point. Like, are there any women around? Do they have women in the organizations? We had so many more women on stage. And so I was very, very, very happy, delighted
Yeah.
when I had more women in my training. So, but now
Yeah.
I'm going back to what I wanted to say. Those young women, they come into a position where they would become team leads. Some of them are supposed to become scrum masters or product owners, or they are becoming team leads. And a lot of them just don't know what to do exactly. So most of the literature out there is more about psychological safety and the psychological things and ideas of how to lead a team and what you should do and not do and how you do an offsite with your team and blah blah blah. And that's great, and we love that. But the practical day-to-day doing was so they couldn't even imagine what could look like or what they could do. They felt unsecure. How can I do the practical work day to day with my team? And it really helped them imagine what they could do and how they could just shape their work. Because we're talking about culture a lot, but for me and Jan, my co-author and brother-in-law, um, the culture has a lot to do with the structure. So you can always try to change the culture, but if the structure doesn't support it, it's just so much harder. And the structure always helped them to imagine, yeah, how could this be, and how can the
Mm-hmm.
structure help us create the culture that we want?
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I have hope.
And you collected many different questions in order to write that book from your audience, from the trainings that you do. And I was wondering if those, like the most pressing questions have, I mean, you've done this for a couple of years, if the most pressing questions changed over the course of the years. Like, are you getting the same questions now in your trainings that you did like a couple of years ago?
No, they've become way more advanced. So if we're talking about how to do agile, or well, in the end, how to lead teams again, it's a lot more about not just the technical stuff and how to say the basics. It's more about also how to incorporate a team into a structure of teams, for example. And some things just haven't changed at all, to be frank. I can see that the changes come from multiple scaled agile implementations that, well, most of them don't really work because the teams they started with didn't work, or they just rolled out a whole transformation. And there was never really the time to cultivate agile or new structures, let's just say new structures, new ways of working, new habits in single teams. And a lot of questions really come from rather unsuccessful transformations. And I see that the questions also have become more broad. I still have total beginners in my training, and I also have people who have witnessed a lot. So I'm really thinking about different formats, and I hope that book is also a good format to just address that stretch, that everybody can find what he or she needs in that book at their own time, instead of being trapped in a room for 2 days with somebody who hasn't heard about Agile or those structures and ways of working at all, and somebody who's really advanced, and so they don't really find common ground.
So thinking about the most recent trainings that you give, the most recent encounters that you have, what are the most pressing questions when it comes to leading teams right now? Like if you could pick like the top 3, maybe.
Yeah, it's how can I convince, and I pick that word deliberately, how do I convince my team to work in a different way? It's how can we get more into the flow? We talk a lot about velocity and increasing velocity in agile trainings, and for a reason. I mean, we spend a lot of time reflecting, doing retrospectives, and trying to eliminate waste or unnecessary stuff in the system in order
And
to
to be
get
frank,
more flow.
I don't know if that's a reality at your side as well, but when clients approach me and say they want to become agile, most of the time what they mean is we want to become faster.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Speed
Yeah.
seems to be the driving factor at the moment.
Yes, and absolutely. The third question would be how do I a lot of people become product owners, for example, but they never get the rights. They get the duties, but they never get the rights. And why do I pick that now? Why do I say that now? It's because it's two sides of the same medal. We are looking at the Scrum Master and the team leads to increase speed, of course, without changing anything of the structure, without reducing multitasking, for example. Everything should be just equally important. Everybody should be able to just approach that team and dump every whatsoever big pile of work on them and not be, well, and get through with it. And nobody is really thinking about doing less, or too little people are thinking about doing less. In the end, what we want to achieve is, or how we get to do more stuff is, on one hand, of course, by improving the flow, but on the other hand, by choosing what not to do. And the biggest aha moments are usually when I pull up that Weinberg table of switching costs.
Never heard of
You
it.
ever seen that? Gerald Weinberg witnessed that. It's more. It's like it's very. How can I say that? So it's more like a model. So there are definitely, it will change depending on your context. Those observations will change depending on the context. How complex is our work? And is it maybe not as complex as we think? But he witnessed in software projects in the 90s that people think that, especially managers think, that our workforce can be divided like in an Excel sheet. For example, I have somebody he or she has to do 2 projects at the same time, 2 contexts that are really more complex. He really has to think about it, or she really has to think about it a little bit. He or she can just do 50-50. And he or she should have 50% of her capacity for one project and 50% for the other project. But it's not true. So depending on the complexity and how much I have to think again, think back, get back into the context, we lose about 20% just for switching. And that is the amount that can vary depending
So
on what
like,
you're actually working on.
so like to put that into perspective, if I have a project takes 10 hours per week, it takes 10 hours per week. If I add another project of a similar size, like another 10 hours per week, it's more like I have now 2 projects that are taking 12 hours per week each.
Exactly. Yes.
So 2
Or
projects, 2 times 10 is 20, 24 in that case.
it takes those extra 2 hours. Or you think, if you say do 5 hours per week on one project, 5 hours per week on the other project. Yes, yeah, because there used to be 10 available, then you lose 2 hours. And it gets worse with the number of projects that we have. So if you have 3 projects or contexts, and you cannot, well, if you were at least to spend one day on one project and get into the flow of thoughts there, it would be a little bit better. But if you really have to switch constantly between those 3 projects, you already lose 40% of your time and energy. So it really doesn't make sense. And seeing that, if you have 4 projects, you're almost at a stage, you lose 60% of your capacity. You're spending more time switching than working. And it's all right for some positions that are really paid to have the overview and be switching, okay? But for most people that are working at team level, it just doesn't make sense. Cutting one project or just saying, hey, let's say this is most important. We have a backlog for that team, okay, and it's prioritized, and we will do the other project later. We will start a week later. We will start a month later. We'll free up so much of energy, and that is usually the big aha moment. And it comes back to product owners.
But wouldn't it be like if I reduce this number of projects, like if I do a project on my own, I don't have any issues with that. But if I'm in a larger organization, so I'm always depending on other departments. So I have some time like where I'm waiting on other people delivering me documents, test results. I'm waiting for certifications, lab results, I don't know what. So I have this free capacity. And what you're just saying is, let's just not spend that.
Yeah, it's always, you have to really observe, does it do you the good that you expect it to do you? Is that a proper English sentence? I don't know. We are so obsessed with using up the time of the people that work for us. Am I actually? I don't know. So many teams, my last team that I coached as a Scrum Master, even the team members, where everybody always thinks they are probably lazy and they're not doing enough of work. But even the team members were watching closely that everybody was busy all of the time. But with a focus on being busy, everybody was just busy. And when somebody needed, I have to make up a name now, Stefan was already working on something. That's why that question somebody had or the need of help kind of ping-ponged back. And were I to ask a question of Stefan, I would have to wait to come back later or say, hey, can you call me back? Or can you reach out, please, when you're done with whatever you're doing? And then later, I am busy and Stefan is trying to reach me because I said, please reach out whenever you're done with whatever. So, and it just sums up. It adds up to a lot of ping pong. So I wouldn't say everybody should just wait for Stefan to finish his work and do nothing during that time, but we're not aware enough of how much of energy and time that actually costs. So you should just observe that and maybe try to what we have in our book as well is to just plan with some time where the team can just work uninterrupted during the week, where nobody, and be it 1 hour for a start, when nobody takes any appointments from the outside, but just concentrates on working with the team together in a synchronized way so that we can also discuss things and then just see what does it do to your flow and to the teamwork and maybe try to stretch it a little bit. We saw many teams and organizations that just said, well, for 2 hours in the morning, nobody from the outside can reach us. This just blocked teamwork and maybe another hour during the afternoon so that we can just work.
It's interesting that at some point work has become a meeting in itself. Like you
Yeah,
have to, in order to
exactly.
really to get shit done, you have to block your time away,
I know. A
even though you
colleague
get
reached
paid
out. Yeah,
to get shit
yeah,
done.
exactly. A colleague reached out to me, and he has access to my calendar.
Hmm.
And obviously, I had, except for one meeting, I had that day open, but I had to prepare, I don't know, two trainings at least, and prepare the podcast and do advertisement for the book and stuff. And he asked me, "But what are you doing today?" I was like, "I'm working. I'm working. I'm doing my work, even though I don't have any meeting in my calendar. I'm doing my work." Mhm.
Yeah, I have
Fascinating.
this habit of being busy while having an uncluttered calendar.
Yeah.
That is like the thing where I aim to go.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I have work, I get stuff done, and whenever people want to approach me, they can approach me, but I will not like block my calendar away. I will not like allow it to be filled with meetings back to back, because if we do a meeting now and the calendar will fill to the next month, if some opportunity would come up, I have no capacity to go for it. I have to stick to
Absolutely.
my plan, or I have to replan, which takes way more time than it should.
Absolutely. That's, by the way, one of the absolute beloved patterns. Somehow are a well-kept secret. The interrupt buffer. Do you know that one? Scrum
No,
pattern interrupt
no.
buffer. It's
Like
it's
it's
so
Scrum
good.
patterns in itself. I see so many people talking about it. I
Hmm.
have no clue what they even are.
Oh, you should have a look into Scrum patterns. They're amazing. So some of the patterns are already in the Scrum framework, like the daily Scrum meeting in the morning, and synchronizing, just not discussing, but finding solutions, finding the best way to our shared goal for that day. And others are really like well kept secrets. For example, the buffer. When my teams are planning their week or a sprint, doesn't really matter, their next iteration, however far they look, they always put a buffer into their sprint backlog or into their weekly plan, because it never happens. Well, that would be my dream, but it never happens that you don't have to react to some kind of emergency, that somewhere there's a bug in the system, somebody needs help, maybe even teams that you are working with on a shared result, they need some support because somebody really became sick and you need their part of the work in order to succeed as a team. I mean, we are always talking about keep teams as independent as possible so that they are not so dependent on the outside world, but they are
Hmm.
never like, I mean, they're in
Yeah,
the end they're
it's
working
never
in one
working. No, no,
organization,
no.
so you can
It
only get so
happens in
far.
startups maybe, but
Yeah.
startup is probably not hiring a coach or consultant when they are just like three people.
Exactly. So they always plan with a buffer, um, and they say, okay, we just we're planning 90% of our week and 10%, and that depends on. It's just an example. It depends on what you witness, what data you have, how many emergencies do we have during a regular week that we cannot push into the next week, into our next plan,
Hmm.
um, and they just leave that open. Because otherwise, a lot of teams plan 100% of their time and they're full, and then an emergency comes, and of course, they have to react. And in the end, they didn't get the work done they were planning to do, and everybody's depressed, and the team is getting stressed, and they're getting beef from the outside like, your commitments are always wrong. We cannot just not trust you. And, but in the end, it wasn't fair. It wasn't transparent that something extra is always coming in.
Yeah.
So whenever a real emergency comes in, they can just deduct it from the buffer. And we're usually using story points for estimations to
Hmm.
say how much of effort are we putting into something. And they just deduct that from that point buffer. And they can always see how many points of that, how many percent of that buffer did we really use up, and how big should our buffer be in the future. And then
Okay.
that's fair and everybody's happy, and it's just an honest way of planning. And so many
Okay.
people
So
don't do it.
So you plan your sprint using story points, and you leave a certain amount of story points free, so to say.
Exactly. Yeah.
And when an interruption comes, let's say I'm one of your team members, someone interrupts me, gives me an extra work. I take that extra work and I estimate it, give it an amount of story points, and I take those story points from the buffer.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
at the
Yeah.
end, you know how many buffer story points you use, and you maybe want to use that or the average or median, whatever, for the next sprint.
Exactly. Exactly. We had, for example, around 100 points of effort in a sprint. That was our velocity on average. Of course, moving a little bit. And we had 15 points of buffer in the beginning when I started with that team. And we could always see over the last 3 sprints how many points did we really have to use. So we used that average of buffer points of the last 3 sprints, just like you would do it with your velocity.
Mm-hmm.
And due to a lot of work concerning quality and documentation and better testing, that buffer was shrinking to 10 points. So from 15 points to 10 points
Mm-hmm.
over the time. And that was also a great success, and it made transparent how much the quality had grown and how much
Yeah.
better the product already was. So that's a
Also, how much
nice side
trust or
effect.
stability is in the setting around the team.
Yeah.
If they're
Yeah,
not getting
definitely.
interrupted, that means like you could plan ahead way more confident.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
Regarding your book, you have 20 habits in
Hmm.
your book.
Hmm.
Maybe not share the best one because I know you want to keep that as a secret on the book, maybe. But your second best habit that would like leverage a leadership position into the space. Like if you follow this habit, this will help you in, let's say, 80% of the time. Like what is your go-to thing? Maybe the second best. Or if you want to share the best, but nobody will buy the book, then probably. But you should.
Yeah. Well, it's really hard, Benjamin. They're all so good. But I would say the best, or I think the best is, or at least the second best, is that interrupt buffer. Yeah, it is that one. And we're also giving you a lot of inspiration about time boxing, because
Mm-hmm.
that is it's so common in agile ways of working, but it is at least the second best kept secret in the
Isn't
world
isn't
of
time
people who are not
boxing
working agile.
isn't time boxing just the annoying fact that you pick a certain time, and when the time box is up, somebody asks an annoying question, interrupts everyone, and asks like, "Shall we keep going or shall we stop here?" And you just go like, "Ugh, like, can we just finish this?" I saw. Do you know David Anderson from the Kanban movement? He tweeted and said he doesn't really like Scrum because of the tyranny of the time box or the terror of the time box. I don't know how to quote it correctly, but it was sort of that direction.
No, 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 because I understand it. I mean, you have to know how to use your time box, and that's why you should read our book, for example. But I see a lot of meetings that are just going nowhere, and they're endless. A time box would just have helped. I mean, it's not just a time box for the planning. How much time do we spend on our planning or on our retrospective? But just agreeing on what is our goal that we want to achieve in a certain amount of time, and let's focus on achieving it in that amount of time. And of course, if it's really urgent, we can always say, let's spend a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But usually nobody's asking that question. Well, especially in that combination of what is the actual goal that we want to reach? What do we need to be discussed? What do we need clarified? What do we need decided within the next 30 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe even just take 25 minutes and say, we want to come to that decision, or we want to have it discussed within 25 minutes. It increases the focus so much. And I know that some professions have an easier way working with a smaller time box and focusing directly. But well, I was also working a lot with teachers, for example, or very creative people, or people who studied some kind of like the German language, and they just love to talk and love to talk everything through, and that's totally fine. But at a certain point, we're not adding any value. And I see it in every training, how people say, I could have never imagined that we would be able as a team to fill out that template. I mean, when we're working on the product backlog and trying to craft a purpose so that we can use something as a game during the training to try some tools and techniques, we would have never imagined that we could just spend 8 minutes with that template and come to a result that is more than good enough. And that we as a team might say, it couldn't have become so much better. I mean, would we have spent 30 minutes? It wouldn't be so much better, like the value of those extra 22 minutes. And it's a big aha. And I would highly recommend, as we just said with the meetings in our calendar, we are obsessed with discussing things. And I don't want to say that, of course, that talking directly, face to face, and be it through a video conference tool, it has so much value. And sometimes we just have to give that space and dive deep. But most of the topics really don't need that much of time. And we should give the time back to our people, to our employees, to our team, so that they can use it for what they were actually paid to do.
So regarding Timebox, I can imagine it's like a sort of a result of mixed influence, because I don't think that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't think if you set a timer to your Timebox and you just wait and let them discuss, I don't think anything will happen. So it's part of discipline of who's attending that meeting, but also part of facilitating and leadership qualities of those who are in charge, who run the meeting, so to say. So would you say that a time box is something that could be useful on its own, or would you say it's more a result of the discipline and the leadership qualities of someone who runs the meeting, and when they do it right, they can stick to a certain time box? So do you see the way that I want to address it?
Definitely.
Is it the fruit or is it the root?
It's both. It's a tree. I see it helps anyway. Focus. But adding those other elements, they are actually, it's funny, those are our base habits that we describe. So we have 5 categories of habits that we describe in detail. How would you do it? What do you need to prepare? Who is part of it? How do you start? What comes next? What pitfalls could there be? So that you can really go through it step by step, which was also often a feedback that a lot of agile practices are sometimes too fuzzy, and people want to know, but if I have to do it for the first time, how exactly can I do it? And it's not like I just want a recipe, but sometimes I just need to know how I can start. And the first big category are our main habits that are always flowing through the whole book. They are essential, and it's a time boxing to like actively manage the time that we're spending, and also say there's an end to that time box. It's in that word, time boxing, for us, but we want to spend 20 minutes, not more. It's always having somebody who actively moderates, or not moderates, but leads through the meeting, who is facilitating, and who helps get to the valuable questions, to the valuable decisions. And how can you get to that point? How do you also get the mandate of the team to be that person who helps through those discussions? To also always, through the help of somebody who is helping in that meeting, have clear goals, be very clear on what we want to achieve, and have transparency over or about everything that we're working on. And those are the essentials. The other ones are the habits that are also like they could happen once a week. For example, planning the week. And what do we have to have in mind when planning the week for a team? What is important? What do you have to prepare? What are potential pitfalls? What are our best practices, so to say? But those four main habits, they are everywhere. And in every meeting, in every discussion, in every little piece of work where a couple of people come together, they should be present. And it's cool to start practicing those habits first because they change so much. I was just talking, well, just talking in my universe means I think a month ago with a colleague in a company. Like she's probably not really a colleague, but I love to see her as a colleague. And she said, I just started with that new team and they were so skeptical about agile ways of working at first. And what we started out with was a certain rhythm and making our work transparent. So, of course, we have those Jira or Trello or whatever boards where we can see what is to be done and what is in progress and what is really finished and somebody just testing something. And I thought, oh, wow, I forgot about the value about this. It's so obvious for me that you have to make your work transparent and everything that you're talking about so that you know what has been said and that you can cluster and it really, your thoughts come to life. They come into the office space, really. But her team was most happy about that transparency, that they finally saw what everybody was doing, and not for the sake of being able to say, well, Benjamin obviously didn't do anything this week, but for being able to coordinate, for being able to celebrate success. Like, look at what we've done so much, and look of what we achieved, and look at how well that work was flowing, and look how easy it is for us to discuss what to improve next, just because we can see it and we have the same view, like we see the same thing on that board.
And also for team development, because I mean, initially we talked about reducing parallel work and reducing those switching costs.
Yeah.
And that would free up some space. And the question is, how do you utilize this space? And I think transparency really helps with learning different disciplines that are on the left and on the right from your type of work. So it broadens your sphere of influence on the work item. So you actively reduce dependencies by learning from others and incorporating their knowledge and their craftsmanship, so to say, into your body of knowledge.
Yes, totally.
So you reduce switching costs by making work transparent, because that's a space where you can learn about other crafts.
Yes. There's also, you can see in this habit, and it becomes a habit. I don't even notice me making stuff transparent anymore because it's just the way I do things. You can see they are all easy habits. It's not a whole framework that you have to apply at once. It's starting to write things down that are being discussed in a meeting and putting them on a sticky note and putting them on a wall or maybe a window if you don't have a wall or a whiteboard or whatever. And then just clustering stuff and having things visible in your team room. It's easy. You just have to do it. Really working together in a shared office space and not virtually, you might have to buy sticky notes or you might have to get somebody to buy you sticky notes. But that's about, or maybe a pen. But that's about it. Then you just have to do it. And you just have to remind yourself for about 3 weeks, 21 days, to just do it and to not leave any occasion out where you could make things transparent. And then you won't even think about it. And in 3 months, it's your new normal. And it's done. And it will improve your work life so much. I see it over and over and over again.
Definitely. Thank you so much. For everybody else watching the show or listening to our episode, now is a really good time to check out the show notes. I linked Alisa's book below. It's only available in German at the moment.
So far.
But after this show, maybe we have a big enough English-speaking audience. So while we'll also publish an episode, a version of the book in English. For everyone who has questions, who want to know a couple of habits, for everyone who's maybe not able to read the book in German, what would be a good way to reach out to you and get in contact?
I would say LinkedIn is always the best way to reach out to me. You can also put my email address into the show notes, but LinkedIn is great. We have so many opportunities. And it's just the best way to reach out. And there's just one Alisa Stolze. My parents did a great job. I will also put that link into the show notes, obviously.
I will.
Great.
I will. Hey, thank you so much for being with us for the episode, and wish you all the best for the book. Get some good reviews in, and for everyone else, go click the link. It's not an affiliate link. It will bring you to, I don't know, probably the publisher site.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Benjamin.
Thank you. Have a
See
great
you.
week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. I really hope you liked our episode. It would be super cool to get in touch with you, and so please reach out via LinkedIn or email. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, it would be a blast if you could support the channel and recommend this episode to someone who might enjoy it as well. As always, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, bye-bye.